Vancouver Radio, episode number 125. I know I said it was episode 125 last time, but we're over 100 and counting isn't my strong point. And once you get over 100, things, well, they get a bit more complicated. Life gets a little bit more difficult. If you happen to be watching on YouTube, I'll end up looking like a Chinaman because I'm in my new office, I'm in my new house, I'm set up. I'm getting rolling, but I've set up my office so that the sun rises in front of my eyes, which wasn't the best move. So this Chinese Ben today on the podcast on YouTube. Anyway, I'm joined by Rachel Guy. It's a classic Q&A show. Rachel, how you doing?
I'm really well, and you do look a little bit Chinese, but it's all good. And actually, funnily enough, I've set up my office the exact same. So if I tweak my blinds here, the sun also shines directly into my eyes, so I could look Chinese too.
We here at Vancouver HQ, we do not have the budget for blinds.
Well, to be fair, I'm in a rented apartment at the moment, so they have kindly put blinds in for me. Is it warmer there now? Because you're only in one hoodie today, and last time we recorded, you were
my new
wrapped
house
up to
has
the
this novel thing called heating. So, yeah, I no longer get cold. Like, when I put the heating on, it actually gets warm rather than, like, two spots in the house, which is my old cottage that I used to rent. So it's great. Yeah, I've got, like, mod cons.
Nice. I can't live without air conditioning. My air conditioning broke actually it was about a week ago now. And we've had some really hot days here in Australia. And luckily, it was sort of down when it wasn't quite so hot. It was only about 27 degrees. But we had one day where it was like brutal. It was like 36 degrees and it was humid. And I just couldn't go to sleep. Of course, I don't have a fan.
Hang on a second. Why are we talking about the weather?
I have no idea. Anyway,
like
I digress. No, but I'm talking about mod cons and how important they are. So anyway, I'm very grateful for my air conditioning. You're very grateful for your heating.
I am. It's so British to talk about the weather. It's not like we've got anything better to talk about. It's usually you're in a slightly awkward situation. Like, yeah, I'll comment on how cold it is outside. But, yeah, anyway, funny.
It's so true. Having lived in Australia now for nearly 9 years, I never, ever check the weather forecast. Never. I don't even care what the weather is outside. And it's so funny because I always remember living in the UK. I always used to like watch Neighbours, obviously, because everyone used to watch Neighbours at 5:30. And after that, the 6 o'clock news came on and we'd always watch the weather first. And I always remember Mum sitting there going, oh, it's going to rain tomorrow. Every day, oh, it's going to rain tomorrow. Particularly in Wales, oh, it's going to rain tomorrow. It's going to rain tomorrow. So yeah,
I rarely check the weather, I suppose, unless I'm gonna like plan a barbecue or something like that. But
yeah,
you need to plan that it's always potentially going to rain in the UK. You just need to plan for that. But I live in Suffolk, so the weather's usually quite good. As an area of the UK, the weather's good. Like we get sun quite a bit, or dry quite a bit anyway. So grateful. Anyway, you're looking quite nice and lean. You're in the midst of doing lots of photo shoots. So you're, eating 900 calories a day of chicken, rice and broccoli and training twice a day at the moment?
No, not quite. I have to say I am very lean at the moment. A little bit leaner than I actually like to be, but that's okay. It's what's needed to be done for the shoot that I'm doing. So no, not quite. I'm training once a day. And this week is sort of depletion week, so I'm doing, shoulders one day, legs the next day, and, that sort of thing. So today is my last day of training. Tomorrow I have a day off. I'm flying up to the Gold Coast, and I basically spend the afternoon kind of chilling, watching movies, chilling out, and then I shoot on Friday morning. So in terms of eating, I can't remember the last time I ate broccoli, actually. Just because I don't like it very much. Like, sometimes I do if it's, like, covered in butter. But there's very rarely do I eat broccoli. So for dinner tonight, I had salmon pan-fried in butter. And I had some carrots with it. And it sounds a bit of a weird combo, but because of my IBS, I have to be very careful on what vegetables that I eat. And carrots are one of those vegetables that I can tolerate. So kind of goes against everybody's comp prep. Oh, you shouldn't eat carrots because they contain a lot of sugar. Well, guess what? It works for me. So therefore, it's probably going to work for some other people as well. So there's no blanket rules on these things. You just have to find out what works for you and become your own detective.
Sugar, schmugger. So, giving people a little insight, because you're basically very lean and about to kind of reach almost where you need to be. How many calories are you on a day at the moment, and where did you start?
I started, well, look, I have to confess, because I was shooting all of last year, I like to sit on usually about 2,500 calories a day. All of last year, I was kind of teetering up and down between about 2,000 down to about lowest maybe 1,700 calories a day. This time around, it's been a little bit harder because I haven't been able to push up past that 2,000 again, just because I haven't had the time. I've been booked for a lot of shoots, and unfortunately, I've now got to the stage where I'm down probably at around 1,500 calories. I think today was my lowest day at 1,300, and I'll probably be at 1,300 tomorrow, and then I'm sort of bringing them back up again. But I don't like coming this low. I don't think it's healthy to maintain. Or I certainly couldn't maintain it at this level. So I'm, like we were talking about off our air, I'm going to be spending the next 6 months, I guess, like, I want to say repairing my metabolism. I don't think there's anything wrong with it as such. I guess the word is optimizing it. So I won't be shooting. I will be spending my time fully repairing my hamstring, which is now a year old. So chronic hamstring tear. I'm still so weak, in all of my deadlifts and all of my squats. So I need to spend a lot of time doing that. A bit of general preparation phase work, I guess, and bringing my calories back up to about 2,200 to 2,500 calories, maintaining a relatively lean physique. And so bringing myself up back to very healthy levels, so that next time I shoot, it's going to be a lot easier to come down.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Do you think we should ask us some questions? Because we have some of the world's longest questions today.
We do. You emailed these through to me, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to read all of these. But first of all, do you have any news?
No, not really.
No, neither do I. I've kind of had my head down, buried in the sand.
Yeah, just like...
So, this is a long one. Are you ready?
Oh, actually, I suppose a tiny little bit of news. This podcast will go live on the 19th of February, and hopefully on the 20th of February we'll be releasing details of the Ireland and Scotland dates, which have been confirmed at the 23rd and the 24th of May for Scotland, and the 2nd and the 3rd of May for Ireland. So if you want to come and see 7 coaches deliver some incredible topics, a workshop day on the Saturday, traditional seminar day on the Sunday, you want to come and meet us, learn some incredible things, the lineup's brilliant, the cost is very cheap. I think it's about £130, £150 a ticket for a whole weekend of learning. Get on board on Friday or just after. Scotland and Ireland, we will be with you in both Edinburgh and Dublin.
That's very cool. I have no plans to come to the UK this year. Well, that could be a lie, actually. I could be working on something, but I will certainly be in Marbella for all of June. So, the UK is only a 2-hour flight away. So, we could... potentially something is on the cards for the end of May, early June time, to come on over and say hello to all my pals in London, because I miss you all dreadfully.
Awesome.
Oh, I've got one more piece of news. I dropped a 40-kilo dumbbell on my finger yesterday. And it's all black and blue, and I posted a picture on Facebook so you can all see it, because I wanted some sympathy.
Oh, poor little Pinky. Is it okay?
Pardon?
Is it okay when you drink a cup of tea?
Yes, it's fine when I drink a cup of tea, but it's a bit mangled and it's a bit swollen. So boo-boos. I had one of those moments where, I was training one of my big boy clients, and I dropped this fucking dumbbell on me, and I was like, "Fuck, that hurts." So I sort of grabbed my finger and I gave him a dumbbell. Anyway, he did his set. And I could feel my finger, when you jam your finger in something and it hurts straight away, but it doesn't really hurt. Anyway, I was spotting him and I could just feel my finger just throbbing and getting bigger. And by the time I finished his set, I looked at it and this thing was hugely swollen, and I was like, okay, now fuck, that really hurts. Now I've seen how bad it is, it really, really hurts.
What is it with small little parts of the body having like this throbbing pulse when you kind of injure it? It's like the same with a toe, you know, a finger. Yeah, it gets hot and then it just like throbs, and it's almost like it has its own heartbeat. It's like there's a little alien in it or something.
It's like paper cuts, man, are the worst.
Anyway, we've spent 10 minutes talking about shit.
Digress. Right, we've got to get on with these questions because they're long ones. Okay, so this is a long question and it's from Nathan. Hi, Ben and Rachel. I emailed the show around July last year regarding my rheumatoid arthritis and how best to tackle it. My question never made it onto the show as it got covered in subsequent episodes. However, Ben did take the time to respond, advising that he thought AIP was the key. So AIP is autoimmune protocol. I thought I would let you know how I'm getting on. If I'm honest, when I started looking into the AIP, it scared the life out of me. I made all of the excuses under the sun not to start, and I kept putting it off. However, after a particularly bad flare-up, I decided enough was enough, and I decided the best way to go about this was to ease myself into it. I started removing processed foods, the little that I did consume, and then dairy, and this was followed by nuts, seeds, and eventually gluten and wheat as well. I did this over a number of months, and whilst I didn't notice any immediate difference, as most people expect to, I just stuck with it. Now, 6 months on, I'm doing better than I ever thought possible. Whilst my knees are not perfect, they are 1,000 times better than they were. It would seem that 10 plus years of constant fluid on the knees has taken its toll on the joints and the muscles surrounding them. 10 years of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories and various other nasty meds have also taken a toll on my body. And 10 years of worrying about it has also taken its toll on me. But as far as I'm concerned, all of that is behind me now, and the only way is up. I'm medication-free and living a relatively normal and healthy life. When I went into this, I was expecting, or slightly hoping really, that to find out that it was dairy, gluten, or one of the other usual culprits that was causing my issues, and I could just avoid it forevermore. What I actually discovered is that a lifetime of living what most people would consider to be a relatively normal diet seems to have given me an intolerance to almost all of the major inflammatory foods. After relying on things such as milk, cereal, bread, pasta, sugary drinks, etc. for so long, I found that if I have any one of these for too long, then I get a flare-up. This means as long as I keep mixing up my diet and I don't have any of these foods too regularly, then I'm fine. What I also discovered that affects my arthritis more than anything I consume is my stress levels. When my stress goes up, as does my inflammation. This was a bit of a revelation to me, and it took a while to realise, but now that I know, I'm taking active measures to control it. I'm sorry for the essay, and I will understand completely if you choose not to read it out on the show. I will be happy knowing that you and Rachel, and maybe even Anna for old time's sake, have read it and know that I, and I'm sure many, many others, appreciate the work that you do. However, if you could find the time to read it out, I would be eternally grateful, just to get the message out there in case there is somebody in a similar position to me, just to let them know what might seem pretty scary to start with. Your family and friends will look at you like you have two heads when you try and explain the food that you're eating is causing issues that, to the untrained eye, have nothing to do with your gut. This isn't half as expensive as it seems. We manage to feed a family of 4 on less than £100 a week. I personally have 3 to 4 portions of decent meat or fish a day, and as a family we eat a tasty, varied diet with virtually no crap. Maybe a few biscuits and occasionally some crisps in the cupboard for the kids. In case there are any young lads listening, most of the online support groups or internet help pages seem to be aimed at middle-aged American women who could also do with losing a little bit of weight. Take all of this information with a pinch of salt and apply some common sense. There are some real nuggets of gold buried amongst all the bollocks. I'm 25 years old and I've been suffering with arthritis in my knees since I was 11. I've had operations, procedures, and have been prescribed more medications than I can remember. Up until I started this journey, my knees would be constantly inflamed to some degree or another, often to the point where my knees were as wide as the widest part of my thighs, which being a bit of a beanpole still isn't very wide, but still. I would often get home from work barely able to barely able to walk. I was missing time with my 2 young boys, missing time with my friends, and generally sinking deeper and deeper. Now, though, I'm out on my road bike at least 5 times a week. I'm in the gym 3 times a week doing squats and deadlifts, etc. And 99% of the time, my knees look like normal knees. It has not been easy, and there have been hiccups where I did feel like giving up at many times, but I didn't. And here I am. I would like to take the time to thank yourself and Rachel from the bottom of my heart for the podcast that you put out for all of the other free information that you put out on a regular basis. I've learned so much in the past 6 months, and just keep learning more. I have discovered so many cool and inspirational people along the way that, like you guys, are putting out free information for no other reason than helping people. Phil Lerney, Ben Greenfield, Alex Ferrentinos, and Lane Norton, to name but a few. There is a long road for me, but it's a journey, and I'm genuinely looking forward to it. I know that I'll learn some cool stuff along the way, and there are some awesome people out there willing to help if you ask. Keep up the fantastic work, Nathan.
Now, I hope people listening can truly understand the monumental change this guy has made through just a simple few changes in his diet. Now, I didn't read his question out originally on the podcast because we'd covered it and stuff, so I just wrote him a very quick email back, probably like a couple of sentences, and I just said, hey Nathan, I think you need to try this, this and this, go away, read this resource, and it kind of took me about 2 minutes. Now, that's not an open invitation for everyone to write into the podcast and write into me and get their kind of woes answered, because this podcast serves to kind of do that. Because I can't answer all the kind of questions and stuff that I get from people. But this is why I keep asking people to share the podcast. Like, through simple information that Nathan has learned and he's gone away and applied, he's gone from not being able to walk properly and play with his kids and exercise to getting out on a road bike, being able to play with his boys and have a normal quality of life. Now, that is incredible. This is the stuff that I talk about in seminars. Like, yeah, nutrition is great. We all want to be lean. Some people want to have abs. We want to have good body composition. We focus on all this stuff all the time in the fitness industry. But this is life. This is where the power is, making people really healthy, making people happy, giving them life fulfillment. That's what fitness is about. That's why we change diet. That's why we exercise. That's why we sleep properly. That's why we drink clean fluids, because it gives these kind of results. And what Nathan's done is incredible. And if you know anyone that is in a similar position to him, has got arthritis, other ailments that have symptoms that can be cured, sorry, I won't use the word cured, can be helped via diet, then you have to share podcasts like this to people. It's almost your right.
100% agree. Like, credit where it's due. That what Nathan's done is awesome. And I can, as I was sat here reading this, and obviously I read it before the podcast, like, all right, he has rheumatoid arthritis. I can sit here and say, look, I've got chronic IBS, which is controlled to some extent, but yeah, I have very bad flare-ups as well. And I can read that and I can relate to everything in that email. I know how hard it is to try and do something. I know what it's like where you have small breakthroughs now and again. So, and it is life-changing. So again, it's just to basically echo what you said, please share the podcast, because again, like, we've had so many people come back to us saying that, and I'll speak for Ben as well. Like, the best thing about this is being able to help somebody and changing somebody's life. And as a trainer, people ask, oh, why do you want to be a trainer? Is it for body transformations? Is it for this? Is it for that? Because you get fed off people. It's not about getting fed off people. It's about the ability to change somebody's life. And sometimes that sounds really cheesy, but it's so true. When you have the amazing ability to be able to gift somebody like that. And look, to be fair to Nathan, he's the one who's done the hard work. The amount of times, I'm sure that, Ben, you've done it as well, where you've given somebody advice and information that you pretty much know would work, but then they just, they want the easy option. And they don't take your advice. But for somebody to take it, use it, and implement it, it's such an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I mean, life's been full of people that have asked me for advice, and they are not ready to hear it. They are not ready to apply it. So I'm going to be honest, please don't ask for that advice. Like, my time is valuable, my advice is valuable, my knowledge is valuable, and I want to give it to people that are ready for it. You know, people that listen to this podcast are ready for the advice. Don't be that person that goes up to someone like me and Rachel and is like, oh, I need help, I'm doing this, if you're not ready, because it's kind of unfair on the people that you're asking them of, because you don't actually respect their opinion. You're just paying lip service to what you think you should do. And you know, I think I went on a bit of a rant at a recent seminar I did in Ireland a couple of days ago, where I talked about all this information, and I said, look, if you're not ready to change, walk out now. Get up and leave. I said, there's no point listening to me, there's no point taking on board the information, there's no point making a half promise to yourself that you're going to do this stuff tomorrow when you know you're not. So you have to be ready for all this stuff. And like Nathan said, he had a big flare up, and that was like, right, I'm ready, like, you know, this has got to stop. And that was the point. And you know, I'd like to think that these kind of things can happen for people sooner than that it doesn't have to be this kind of bad situation to be in before we actually do anything about it. But I think it's because, you know, people generally don't value their health well enough. Like, I still walk up to people every day and they're like, oh, I love the podcast. You know, I've been trying to implement some stuff, and I've kind of done a bit, and I'm like, why? I'm like, why not? Why have you not done more? Like, your health is more important than anything else that you do. The health is more important than staying up late watching the TV. Your health is more important than eating the food that you're not meant to. And I don't get it. And another point I made in a seminar of mine the other day is that the reason why I take the approach that I do in nutrition is because I have to give people a wow moment. I have to give people a moment where I take them to a place where they feel so good where they don't want to turn back. And I say to people, like, if I get you sleeping perfectly, if I get you eating perfectly, if I get you moving well, if I make you feel hydrated and alive, and as I call it, feeling awesome, then you will not go back, because you will realise that, oh my God, I want more of that. In fact, I want that every day. And this is kind of what Nathan's realised. And just to pick up on 2 points Nathan made, he said that his results were slow at the start. Now, the reason for this, and I hope you pick this up, people listening, is that he did his exclusion very slowly. Like, very slowly. He was like, he removed this, and then he waited a bit, and then he removed this, and then he waited. And like, wheat was like the last thing to go out of his diet, and wheat was probably the biggest part of the component for his inflammatory condition. So that was why I think he got slow results. I think if it went all at once, it would be way, way quicker. And also, he notices that he can eat small amounts of these food without a flare-up. He might want to look into histamine as a cause of this, so it could be histamine related as well. And histamine is something that if you eat low levels of it, you don't get any issues. When if you eat a lot, that's when you get the issues and the flare-up. So it kind of builds up. It's like a a bath with water in it. There's a point where it overflows. But Nathan, that's incredible, and well done.
Well done, buddy. Okay, this next question is from Tom. Hi Ben, thank you for all of the information you provide. It has changed my life, and from the age of 14, I've overtrained and undereaten. With your help, I've felt so much more in control over my eating and training, and finally achieving the results I want to see. I would like to now pass on what I've learned to the next generation so they don't make the same mistakes. I did my personal training qualification at 17 but never put it to use. And now I'm helping out in a school gym, and to make sure that I'm passing on the correct information, I've registered for your next Foundation Academy. Now, to my question, and something I don't think you've covered much. All the teenage boys want quick muscle and believe they will get it by drinking a pre-workout, splitting body parts up, destroying them with numerous drop sets, etc., and then drinking a protein shake, as this is what all of the muscle mags and websites say they need to do, and the people that they want to look like also say that they need to do. Which ways have you conveyed it best to younger trainers about how they should train and eat when you're working against these other areas of information which are so powerful? Many thanks.
Now this is interesting because I don't actually think I can make a difference here, and I've tried many times, and when you're young, you're immature, and I think back to when I was, training at a young age, and no matter what my elders or more experienced people told me, I went and did what I wanted anyway. That was me. That was young. I was immature. I was arrogant. That's just the way it goes. And I've had many younger people talk to me, and I would say 80% are going to go away and do what they want to do anyway, and 20% are probably actually ready to kind of listen. And that 20% are probably the people that haven't immersed themselves in this information that you talk about, the magazines, the reading of adverts from supplement companies and stuff like that. These are the people that have just come up to me, not without any prior, thought processes, and gone, do you know what, Ben? I want you to show me how to do this. What's the good way to do it? And they've just done it. But once, this information's ingrained and people get a taste of what results can be like, then it's very hard to change that thought process. Now, the thing with being young is your body adapts very quickly. If you train hard, I've seen young trainers that I've trained, and I've got them in the gym, and within a couple of months, they're looking beastly already. They're already lean, they've started to lay down some muscle, they're looking athletic. Now, if someone goes into the gym and they read Men's Health and they ended up buying a maxi muscle shake, some crazy pre-workout, started doing a body part split and getting results, straight away, because they're getting quick results, that stuff works. The pre-workout worked, the recovery shake worked, the body part split, stuff worked. So it's a very hard thing to actually circumnavigate and get around, because you're dealing with people that are going to be very quick responders, and the chances are whatever they do, they'll respond anyway. So I think it's tough. I think over time, the information in the magazines will start to change. I think some of the magazines' information have already started to come along a long way. I think I write for a lot of the magazines most months, and I personally see that Train magazine seems to do really good content. Men's Fitness does some great content. Men's Health can do, but I find the Men's Health message can sometimes contradict from one page to the other, and it's obviously very advert led, because that's just the type of magazine it is. It's more lifestyle, so you have to kind of take that stuff with a pinch of salt. But generally, I think the magazines are doing a lot better, because the quality of the writers has improved an awful lot in the industry. So, you know what, mate, you just got to do what you can. I was speaking to Stephen Ace from the Strength Academy the other day, and he said a great thing to me about being a coach. And he's like, coaching isn't about arguing online and trying to prove your one-upmanship against other people. It's taking one person, changing them, showing them some light, leading them down a path, and then moving on and helping the next guy.
Nothing further to add, Your Honour.
Oosh.
I used to love those days, actually. Just reminiscing back in the day, good No Explode, the original formula of No Explode. I reckon I was probably about 19, 20 when I started getting into that, and I would literally just copy whatever the guys in the gym were doing. So I did a lot of quarter squats, bicep curls, lateral raises, and tricep pushdowns. That was probably the extent of my training. I had savage pumps, or what I thought was a savage pump back then. I started to grow some muscles, and I used to have a chocolate shake after training, and I'd be the only chick having protein shakes after training. And I started to grow muscles, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, my arms are really hard. So yeah, we live and we learn.
We do.
But it worked. For a period of time, it worked.
Days.
I know. And back in the good old days.
I genuinely don't know how to convey that to a young person. Like, I had a guy in the gym the other day. He was 18. He's part of our rugby club, and he was like, oh, what do you think of Muscle Farm's pre-workout? And I was like, there's no way in hell that you at 18 need a pre-workout. You just need to get in and do some hard work and stop worrying about it. But now the guy takes 3 scoops of the stuff, to get that, because people love that feeling. That's why people get drunk as well. Like, people like the feeling of being slightly euphoric, feeling, really amazing for a short period of time, and that's why these supplements are popular. But over time, you'll get addicted. They'll ruin your adrenals. You'll get a false sense of training intensity. Slippery slope. It
is very slippery slope. So, next question. There isn't a name on this one, but this is quite a serious question. Hi, Ben and Rachel. I contacted Rachel earlier this week on Twitter for the contact details of the professor in Manchester that she went to see about her IBS. She kindly replied and gave me his details. I remember that. The question today is about my sister. I'm becoming deeply concerned with her health and general well-being. Before I get to my worries, I'll tell you a little bit about her. She's a 21-year-old nursing student who lives away from home. She's always kept herself pretty fit and healthy, mainly by running. She's always had an amazing figure, and generally out of the family, she was the one who would least likely suffer from any issues. When she was younger, she would get very anxious and stressed about the small things, and this would lead to her getting very emotional. Since she has started a nursing course 2 years ago, she's been suffering with terrible anxiety, stress, amnesia, constipation, and weight loss. Last time I saw her, about 2 weeks ago, I noticed that she must only have weighed about 6 or 7 stone wet through, and she looked visibly so small. This is when I noticed that she needed help, and fast. She's been to the NHS doctors, and although as a nurse she fully believes in the system, they just fob her off with tests and do not give her any answers. Through my knowledge, I did try to look at her diet and cut out foods that could contribute to her stomach issues. She stuck to a very simple single food diet, meat and greens, for about 2 months with no change. In fact, the prep and the worries about food have made her anxiety even worse. It is probably worth mentioning that throughout this, her appetite still does remain. The only time that she gets to herself is in the gym or around the home and when she goes out for a run. I've tried to direct her towards online coaching, but not just for her digestion, but also for her psychological issues. But the thought of doing something without somebody physically being there really worries her. It is clear that the problems she is experiencing do not simply stem from diet or mind, but both. My question, after a mountain of information, is: are there any companies not online based where she can go to get help and advice and medication that she needs? Someone who can recommend. Is there somebody that you can recommend that will help her with both anxiety, sleep, and diet and nutrition? I'm worried that with her shift patterns, anxiety, and constantly losing weight and not sleeping well, she will end up damaging herself beyond repair. Thank you, Ben and Rachel. We, as a family, have tried a lot over the 2 years and not making much progress.
Wowzers. This is it's actually a really cool question because I feel it's something I'm starting to try and understand myself a lot more because, I'm a knowledgeable coach. I understand nutrition a lot. I understand training a fair bit, not as much as the nutrition. And, we have to give massive credit to the mind and how it works. And really, the mind unlocks all this stuff. And it's, especially for coaches listening out here and people that, are trying to work their way through this stuff. They're trying to work out how the mental side can play into their progress and unlock all the things that they're trying to sort out. Now, before I go into a little ramble about the advice I think she should seek out, I think she should also, and this is going to happen through the process that I'm now going to talk about, but I think if her job is starting to play into her anxiety and is causing her to be out of sync, I think it's time to make a plan where over the next 2, 3, 4, whatever 6 months, you try and change jobs and change that job, not necessarily the role of that job, but away from a shift pattern. So that, and there's no harm in someone walking up to their manager, their line manager, whatever, and saying, look, I'm having a little bit of, stress and anxiety at the moment. And part of it, I believe, is because of my shift pattern. It's really hard on my sleep patterns to get up in the morning really early or stay to bed late, and it's kind of just screwing with me. I need regularity. I need a normal night's sleep. My own personal physiology can't handle this. What can you do for me? Can you put me on the same shift every week? Is it workable? Can I start doing the day shift? I don't know. Now, I can't really recommend someone because, this is really for someone to do in person with someone else, right? This is a kind of a therapist type role. And the reason why I mentioned me kind of exploring this kind of stuff at the moment is as of last week, I actually started therapy. So I have now started seeing a psychotherapist purely because my quest to kind of make myself better has led me down the mental aspect of kind of my life and the things that have shaped me, my childhood, growing up, the things that have basically made me who I am. And part of me wants to kind of quantify it. It's not to say that I'm an unbalanced person in any way. I think I'm very rational. I don't have any anxiety. I don't suffer from anything mentally, but I know there's traits in my character which lead me to make decisions both professionally and in my personal life that don't really affect things but could affect things, knowing that the situation or the environment becomes unfavourable. Now, this is something that I'm, working with someone that I found in my local area. I phoned a lot of people, and I made an assessment of whether I was going to work on them with how they communicated to me on the phone. So I had to kind of feel that I could resonate with this person on the phone. Practitioners have a certain way of asking you questions on the phone, showing that they care, allowing them to open you up in a very short amount of time. And this kind of, it was like the fourth woman that I rang. I was like, no, this feels right. So I'm now, talking to this person. We're going through processes. We're discussing things, and I think this is exactly what you need to try and encourage your sister to do. She needs to go and talk to someone. Now, this someone probably needs to maybe have a speciality in anxiety, a good background in food, so that maybe she could, coach some basic things into her around the food aspect. But it does take a strong person to go and ask and seek for help. And it's something I've done because I'm not, I'm talking about it now to, well over 10,000 people. I'm not scared to kind of admit this stuff because it's my pursuit of making myself better. So I think she needs to do this. She needs to take the step, and hopefully she's ready to take that step.
It's actually something that I can relate to. It's funny working in the NHS, and I'll speak from experience. When I graduated as a physio, I was working for the NHS as well, and I was lucky I actually didn't have to do shift work as a physio, but I felt the same thing. And looking back, I didn't know that it was anxiety, but I always felt a sense of really just uncomfortable. And it was genuine anxiety. I didn't know what it was back then. And I got diagnosed with mild depression, and the doctors wanted to put me on SSRIs, and I was like, I'm not depressed. There was one time I just went home for the weekend back to Cardiff and spent the weekend at home, and something just clicked that weekend. And I thought, why am I being given antidepressants? I'm not a depressed person. I'm not depressed. It's my situation that is making me fucking miserable and anxious. So lo and behold, yes, I quit my job, and obviously being extreme, I flew to the other side of the world and started a new life over here. But now I'm very happy. So I can relate to being in the situation, and sometimes you feel. I'll say this as well. She's in her second year of nursing school. You sometimes feel when you're in that stage, I've only got 1 year to go. I've only got another year to go. If that's the case, weigh up what is more important to you, your health or your career. And essentially it always comes down to your health. And, you can always come back to finish your nursing if and when you want to. Because the truth is that, when I moved to Australia, I had to, resit all of my exams basically to become a recognised qualified physio in Australia. So I had to resit written exams and resit clinical exams, and I got halfway through them. I think we had 9 exams in total. I finished 7 of them, and I got to the last 2, and I had probably about another 6 weeks worth of work left in me. And I just got to the stage where I was like, you know what? I don't know why I'm doing this. I've quit it once. I really don't enjoy what I'm doing. And people thought I was mad. I had 2 exams to go, and then I'd be a recognised qualified physio over here as well. But the truth is that to me, it just wasn't worth it. So, I'd encourage this lady to really sit down and really establish what is important to you. Because in the whole big scheme of things, if you don't finish nursing, don't worry. It may not be the thing for you anyway. There will be something else that will make you happy.
100%. There's something recently I've tried to change in my lifestyle as well, because um, having a house move was a little bit more stressful than I thought it was, purely because of the amount of crap you have to, sort out, and the time constraints. That on alongside, running several companies and doing all the things that I do on a daily basis. It didn't kind of get too much, but it demotivated me. And the reason why it demotivated me is actually for one reason, and you can kind of link this quite quickly to anxiety and the fact that I felt I was letting people down. So because everything got like a little bit too much and my time was really stretched, the one thing that plagued on my mind was my email. Now, my email is obviously my direct communication to a lot of things, to journalists that are trying to get me to write for magazines, clients, my staff that are trying to get me to do things, need me to okay things, write things, projects that we're starting. And, there was emails that had been like weeks and weeks old that I just couldn't get to alongside all the other stuff. And I said, and I probably had about 5 to 6 weeks where, no, probably about 4 or 5 weeks where I felt not unmotivated, but about 80% of the day I was not on my game. No, we'll use the word unmotivated. I was struggling to really feel fresh and just tackle everything. Just have a clear mind and go bang, that job, bang, that job, bang, that job. Now I've moved into my house. A lot of that is gone. I'm 100% fresh again. Mentally, I'm really hungry. So to get myself out of that situation, I got into my house and I said, look, I'm not going to do anything in my house till the next weekend. I'm going to spend 6 hours every night on my email. And I just absolutely drilled my email. I said, look, I need to get in touch with everyone. I need to tell them why I'm being slow. I need to, because that was the thing that was annoying me. I felt like I was letting people down. So I just hammered it. And I caught up with my emails. I deleted tons of stuff. I deleted loads of stuff on my computer, my desktop. And I basically had a cull and I cleansed everything and I got on top of everything. And that, combined with getting in my house, painting walls, doing all that kind of stuff, allowed me to get rid of that thing that had been hanging over my head, which was letting people down, not feeling that I was delivering, where I feel I'm an individual that delivers, time and time again. So sometimes, I had to work really hard. I had to dig in and do the work that was needed to be done to cause me to come out the other end and be kind of fresh and mentally energized with my life.
Dreaded emails. I've got to do that today. Thanks for reminding me.
That's what I'm here for.
That low-level anxiety I just kind of forgotten about for the past hour, and now it's back. I know. So I'm going to do an email blitz after this, I think. So, you ready for the next question? Or did you have anything further to add? No. I think it's a really difficult situation to be in. I think, it's really hard when you see a family member in that situation. And in terms of, I'll just touch on one thing that wasn't mentioned. I know this chick is suffering with IBS as well, and saying that she's on a meat and vegetable diet. One thing, and we've talked about this on previous podcasts, but I'm going to bring it up again. Vegetables in somebody with IBS can make the situation significantly worse. I would recommend that straight away you start looking at the FODMAP diet, and that's FODMAP, FODMAP. And you can get a list of foods on there which I would recommend that you avoid. An example would be, I never eat sweet potato, ever. I eat white potato. I eat white rice. And, these are things that apparently you get fat if you eat. Well, look, if you've got IBS and you need some carbs from somewhere, so these are some safe carbs that you can eat. So white potato and white rice being just two of them. So I would, a meat and vegetable diet can be great. It can be very healthy for some people, and some people can thrive on it. But there are a lot of people who really struggle with that. Meat is generally okay. Generally, the fats are okay. You just have to be careful with veggies, the amount of fiber that you're having, and the types of carbohydrate that you're having as well, because they tend to ferment in the gut. So just have a little look into the FODMAP diet, and perhaps that's a place to start as well, because if she's got gut issues, obviously that's going to affect the neurotransmitters, and how she actually feels and how she reacts to different situations. So, it's sometimes a case of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Is the issue actually lying in the gut, and therefore it increases her anxiety? Or is it that her anxiety is causing her IBS to get worse? And I'm pretty sure it's a two-way street. Both are affecting the other.
Definitely.
Last question. This question's from Kelly. Hi, Ben and Rachel. First, I would like to start this email the same way that everybody seems to, by thanking you. Not only have I benefited and loved listening to your podcast, but they have also had a profound effect on my husband, Matt. For over a year, he was unhappy in his job, and despite finding fitness and nutrition a couple of years ago, the stress of his work in the last year specifically made him go back to his old ways of eating, missing gym sessions, and generally making bad food choices. When I first listened to your podcast with the minimalists, I knew right there and then that this could help my husband, who was having a very tricky time deciding what to do with his career. He'd gotten so unhappy and stressed from his 15-year-long career in sales that it had ended up with him suffering from depression. We've been together since we were 16, for 17 years now, because we're both 34, and this has been heartbreaking to watch, and I was very worried. This came to a head in November last year when he became so unhappy that I told him to quit his job, which he did immediately, and took some time out to rest and think about what he wanted to do. The Minimalist podcast inspired him to rethink what was important to him. Previously, it had been about earning as much money as possible in order to provide us with a financially stable life. But he became acutely aware that his high-intensity sales career did not fit his values and morals, and it certainly didn't make him happy. From then on, he did some more research and listened to your podcast with Will Foster, the happiness coach. He even contacted Will himself, who was incredibly supportive. As a result of this, my husband has now truly realised what he wants to do in life, and has become a life coach and image consultant. He's always had a real knack of inspiring others and giving them confidence, and now he's made a decision the life truly has flown him by. Your recent podcasts have specifically helped him with goal setting, and as a result, he has signed up for some local volunteering in our community, attending coaching courses and applying for charity roles with the aim of building the business to help set him up in his own life coach business in the long term, whilst in the short term really helping make a difference to others. I'm so proud of him and have willingly traded the money that he used to earn for a happier, healthier husband who I know can inspire others to do great things. I'm sorry for the long-winded email, but I just wanted to say a massive thank you. It's fantastic that your podcast can not only inspire people to be fitter, but also to have a fitter mind. Those things really do come hand in hand. That long, gushy stuff aside, I've been meaning to write in for some time to ask a question. I know you and Rachel have already talked about stubborn fat loss in females, specifically around the hips, bum and thighs, etc. I have a pretty lean upper body and stomach, but I have always carried fat on my thighs and legs. 2 years of weight training has definitely given me a better body, but I'm still struggling with my legs despite training them very often. I know you trained Naomi Douglas for a bikini show. I'm sorry, I probably butchered her name. For a bikini show, and you've mentioned before that you did some specific training with her to ensure that her legs have leaned out before the show, but her upper body didn't get any leaner. Can you share some of this training protocol? I lift heavy around 3 times a week with 2 high-intensity interval sessions, sometimes also incorporating weights in a circuit fashion on separate days. I would love to know of any particular training methods that you used with her. I already, thanks to you and another previous PT, have a sound knowledge of nutrition. And also finally, I absolutely adore Rachel. I feel like an idiot reading this out. I absolutely adore Rachel. She's my ultimate fitspiration, and I would like to know if she's planning any UK tours or training, etc. this year. Thank you both once again, Kelly. Aww. Kelly, you've made me blush. Thank you.
Now, I wasn't actually going to answer this question. but I've decided to. One of the reasons why I thought I wasn't going to answer the actual question in this question is that there's no information what she's actually doing in terms of her diet, and this is really important. If you're going to write a question into the show, we have to know what you're doing in terms of your nutrition. You know, if you're reaching a goal like this, which is totally body composition orientated, we need to know as a general rough rule what you're eating on a day-to-day basis, your calorie intake, maybe your macronutrient intake, so that, you know, we can troubleshoot for a start. Because one of the first things I might say is, well, are you actually counting the calories that you eat? Because if you're not getting any leaner, then you might be eating too much. Now, I think it's awesome that, you know, Matt has been inspired by the show, her husband. That's really cool. I love the fact that people find the strength somewhere, somehow, to chase the things that they want to do in life. I love that. I don't think anyone should be in a position where they don't like their job, they're not happy doing things. Like, change it, make a plan. It might even take you 5 years, but if you change, that's going to be beneficial at some point. I think that's fantastic. Now, her question, to be honest, I was kind of doing a similar thing to you in that I was training her upper and lower body split 4 days a week. So upper, lower, rest, upper, lower. And we'd do something like maybe we'd keep the weekends variable. If she felt training was really hard, we'd do some like walking and some stretching and yoga. If she thought the week she was on top of it, then I might throw in like an extra HIIT session, a long cardio session. It'd completely be variable. But basically, I'd blitz her legs really hard twice a week. Both hamstrings and quads twice a week, and then the upper body was a little bit lighter. We'd throw in some core work, some more body weight leg stuff as well. So we were still getting blood around the legs, even on the kind of rest days. So I didn't really do anything magical with her training. I obviously targeted the training to where I thought it needed to be. But, you know, the key thing was with her diet. You know, getting her nice and lean, doing a few things before the competition. Now, it's actually not something I'm going to share on the podcast. I've got a seminar on this on my website devoted to this topic. I've forgotten what it is. It's about female dieting. It's about getting lean, what you can do up to a photo shoot and stuff like that. And that's kind of paid for content. That's kind of knowledge that I feel is juicy. So if you want that information, by all means go to bencoomber.com and find it. But, you know, the power really is in the diet. You know, I didn't do anything too magical or unseen with the training.
I'll just add there, like training the glutes on a female. I train very high volume with my chicks. You know, some of them are training their glutes like 4 times a week and recovering from it as well. So, you know, very similar actually to what you were doing, Ben. So I tend to do 2 heavy leg days. And then we'll do some form of other, you know, there's always some glute work in there somewhere. And I think sometimes the mistake that some trainers make is if they're only training legs once or twice a week, it's better to have a little bit more frequency, I think, with females, so that, you know, you get a good volume of training in, but you don't entirely smash the legs so that then they can't do anything for the days that follow. Because I know what it's like having, you know, you have a massive leg session and you're so sore that if you then go and try and do intervals the next day, you literally haven't got the power in your legs to particularly if you're doing a spin bike or something like that, you can't get the power in your legs. You just can't generate enough force to really have a good interval session. So I think like the little and often, I don't want to say little and often, that's not what I'm saying, but the frequency is really important here. Lots of glute, lots of hamstring work, some other little things that can help lean out your legs or certainly give the appearance of leaner legs would be things like skin brushing, bone broths, help the integrity of the collagen in the skin. Obviously, fake tan. Who goes off without fake tan nowadays? There's no way I'd wear shorts without fake tan. Like little things like that as well, but essentially it does come down to nutrition.
Right, that's a wrap, man.
It's a wrap. We're done.
I would rap, but I can't rap. There ain't no 50 Cent here. Just a nutritionist rapping about the nutrition thing. Rachel, thank you very much for being a elegant and wonderful guest as always.
Thank you for having me, Benny. It was lovely to chat to you in your new house and your Chinese eyes.
I'm not going to do a China impression. That would probably be really on PC. I do it by default, and then I kind of think, oh shit, I better not offend anyone.
I do that too. Do you know what? I've got this app on my phone. People probably know, those who follow me on social media know that I love it. It's called Time Hop. And did you know that a year ago today, me, you and Phil were in Sydney, because I keep seeing every time I check Time Hop, like you and Phil are sticking your faces up on my Time Hop. I'm like, oh, a year ago today, doesn't time fly?
Oh, awesome. Yeah, we were in Australia a year ago.
Yeah. You should come back. You do another visit.
Yeah, well, I kind of need a good reason. Or someone, or someone to pay for my flight.
Your mother's in Sydney. Come on. Come and see me.
Right, if you want to check out Rachel, go to theathleticfox.com. If you want to check myself out, you know I am, bencoomber.com. Check out the Ireland and Scotland conference tickets when they go live, which will be very shortly after this podcast is recorded. If you want to feature your question on this show, please bear in mind the caveats I mentioned earlier about the detail that you put into these questions. We're not too bothered about long questions because I will cut out any waffle, don't you worry. Email bencoomber@gmail.com with the subject line podcast, and your question will get thrown into the mix. If you've enjoyed this show, like I mentioned earlier, please share it with people. We can't help people if you don't share this show, if you don't get it out there, if you don't enable people to take power of their health. That's enough from me. I will see you next week with a guest, and me and Rachel will be on the week after that. That is ciao from me.
Ciao from me. See you soon.
See you soon. Hey everyone, Ben Cooper Radio, episode number 125, with an epic guest. I say epic because I've been a very, very big fan of this guy's work ever since I read his book, Never Let Go.